you should see the live stream now when you refresh your page or something, and you should be able to join in. Just make sure you mute your computer so we don't get echo through your speakers and stuff. How many people joined us last week, Wednesday, for the other talk on custom post types? Anybody? You did? Yeah, so you guys saw how to do it with plugins. And so today we'll be doing the opposite. We'll be doing it without plugins. I actually went in and undid already all of the work that I put in last week. It was all for nothing. It wasn't for nothing. You guys learned something from it. But yeah, essentially what we're going to do is, instead of using plugins to get that done, we're going to write our own custom plugin and essentially just like consolidate all the functionality that we want to add in terms of custom fields, custom post types into our plugin. And then of course I'll also show you how to do it without a plugin. You can do it right in your theme as well. If you have a child theme or whatever, we won't get into child themes, how to make those, what they're about or anything. I'm just going to assume that you know what child themes are and how they work. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Anybody have any questions on what a custom post type even is? Like, is that news? Does anybody not know what a custom post type is? Good. That's going to speed things up dramatically. Now we don't have to explain that. It's fantastic. Yeah. So just like anything that behaves like a post, you add new like a post, but it's just not called a post. So it could be anything. A lot, common ones on WordPress sites or portfolio. Like you were talking about earlier, the memberships. Like a member would be a custom post type, and every member, you would list all your members, so every member would be a custom post. There'd be a custom post type called members, and then all of them would be a post of the post type member. So yeah, let's go ahead and I guess just dive into it. So for those of you that have laptops, if you all use GitHub at all, the code base that I'm going to be using is on my GitHub. I think I still have GitHub open here. Yes, I do. So I gave a talk on admin experience back at WordCamp Omaha 2016. And during that talk, I talked about how you can use custom post types to improve your admin experience. And so essentially, what I did was I created a GitHub repo that essentially has the stuff that I talked about in there. And so in there is the PHP file that I'm going to be working off of today, which is this there we go. That's what I was trying to do. Although that's way bigger than I expected it to be. Okay, yeah. So this Bizzle CPT template deluxe, if you just go to that, which you don't have to be logged in or anything to see it, and then go to raw, you should be able to copy and paste it from there. You can download it or whatever the heck you want. Download the whole repo if you want, for all I care. And then yeah, you can get what we're going to be working off of for the code base today. Cool. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding, whoops, that's not what I wanted. We're going to be adding the custom post type that we added last week for organizers, so that we can go in there and manage the organizers that are involved with WP Omaha, and then have a place to list them and stuff. Now, last week we ran into a situation where, because we were trying to do it all without code, we were able to create the custom post type and we were able to add the custom fields to it and all that good stuff, but we didn't have a way to like list them the way that we wanted to on the site without diving into code. And as far as I know, you're always going to run into that pickle. I suppose if you're not very particular on what those posts look like, then not a big deal. But we're going to go ahead and just negate that problem entirely today, because we're also going to add the page template to make those singles and archives of the custom post type look the way that we want them to look, so that we can include the custom fields that we're adding or whatever. So let's get into it. I'm using PHP Storm. It's basically what I always use. So I guess if you're familiar with PHP Storm, good for you. If you're not good for you. I don't know. It's a code editor, so it really doesn't matter what you use, honestly. I'm trying to figure out.
Is there a way to free code editor you can download it?
Absolutely, yeah. Probably Visual Studio Code is the most popular one nowadays, but Sublime Text is obviously still popular. Some people still use Notepad++, and there's a whole slew of them out there. So it really doesn't matter which code editor you use. I just prefer to use PHP Storm because it's made by the people who make WebStorm, which is IntelliJ, and then I don't know. In my opinion, their stuff is the best. I'm sorry?
Vim for us old people.
Vim? Is that what you just said? Oh, geez. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To each their own, I guess. But yeah, I like the code linting and all the other advantages that come along with PHP Storm. They have some convenient features that I really like. So right now, this is just... Did you have a question, Dylan? I thought I saw a hand go up and I feel like I ignored somebody. Okay, cool. So this is all I did to get this here was I just copied and pasted what was on the GitHub repo that I just showed you into a blank file that I gave a name. I'm not going to leave it in this blank file. I just wanted to get it into my editor like ASAP, because essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to like cherry pick pieces, essentially functions and hooks, from within this file and put them into our working file, which is actually going to go on the site. I really don't like how this magnifier gets us so darn close, but I feel like I don't have anything better to use.
You could change it from 200%.
Yeah, I think you can go to like 150, which I kind of want, but...
What happens if you hit the left?
Yeah, it's going to go to 100, I think.
So
it only does it in increments of 100 for some reason. Because I'm using like the standard...
You can change right down there. There you go.
Yes.
That's much better.
All right, cool. I'm going to leave it here because it looks like I can just kind of scroll around as I need. So that's what we're going to do, even though it's a little annoying. At least you guys can see better, and that's what matters to me. Cool. So we're going to start off with just basically making a blank plugin. Has anybody here ever not made a plugin from scratch? Sweet. You're about to see how easy it really is to make your own plugin from scratch. It really is like stupid simple. So even this part is optional, but it's a best practice. We're just going to give our plugin a name. I'm just going to call this let's see. So when you're dealing with your own plugins, you always want to prefix stuff like according to your own situation, so that if you ever install plugins in the future that might have similar functionality, you don't have to worry about stuff conflicting with each other as far as the namespaces go. So I'm just going to prefix it with WPO, and then I'm just going to call this organizers. Yep, and that's going to be the folder that our plugin resides in, and then we are going to create what I like to refer to as our main plugin file. And this is going to be kind of a quick, sloppy plugin. There is obviously like other best practices, like object oriented, like all the like real plugins that I make that that are like for real work, I do object oriented. But that's a little overkill for what we're talking about today. I kind of wanted to keep things simple so it's easier for you guys to understand. So I'm just going to be doing things in a non-object oriented fashion today, which is going to be a little difficult for me because I have kind of forced myself to get to a point where I do everything object oriented. But yeah, I don't want to get people confused if they don't understand OOP. So We're just going to leave it simple. I'm just going to call this the same exact thing as our folder. So this is what I like to call the main plugin file. It's going to automatically put the .php on there for me. It's going to automatically create my file, automatically put the PHP tag in there. We're going to get this out of there. And then now I'm just going to go back to this file where I copied and pasted the custom post type stuff from, and I'm just going to copy and paste some stuff from here into our new file that we just made. So conveniently enough, this little bit of code that I put on my GitHub also has the necessary stuff to make a plugin. So I'm going to start by obviously copying what's called the plugin meta header, I think. Not really what it's called. I'd call it that though. You can call it whatever you want. I'm sure it has a more official term. But essentially, this right here is the bare minimum that you need to create a plugin that literally does nothing. So it's that simple. We just made a plugin like that. Now we're not entirely done. We do have to give it a name and fill out some of these. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to call this WPO organizers. Oh my gosh. CPT. I'll give it a version 1.0. I don't know why this is set to 2. And the rest of this I really don't care about that much because it really doesn't make a huge difference when it comes down to it. Plugin to add custom post types to any WordPress website. That actually almost works. I'm just going to add something in here about it being an organizer custom post type. A plugin to add an organizers custom post type. Jesus. Holy cow. It's just a struggle bus today. Told you I'm tired. We're going to get through it though, I promise. All right. So there you go. So now, because this project in PHP Storm is already hooked up to the server that this website lives on, I can just quickly and easily upload this. I think I don't see my little green box at the bottom that tells me, oh, that's probably because we're zoomed in, huh? Yeah, it did. Okay, cool. So now I should be able to go back over to the admin area and see my new plugin that I just added that does nothing, and activate it, obviously. So if I go into plugins, all right, this we're going to zoom out temporarily. Anybody see it yet? Should be inactive. There we go. It's right there. WPO organizer CPT, and you can see it has all the information that we just entered. Timeout while I make a text because I have a feeling there's some confusion with my home life. All right, so I'm just going to activate this plugin that does literally nothing, and it's going to, obviously, since it does nothing, it's going to make no effect on the site whatsoever. All this is just stuff from other plugins. And so there you go. We look down here, it's activated, and it does nothing. And the reason I'm doing it this way is so that now when I add the new stuff, I can just add my code, upload the changes, go back to the site, refresh the page, and then I don't have to worry about activate, deactivate stuff or whatever, right? So now we can just go ahead and add stuff into this code at will, and we're just going to do exactly what I talked about earlier, which is grabbing giant sections of this, copying them, pasting them into that other working file, and changing the verbiage essentially in the function to make it so that we can add our custom post type. So we add, I mean, for those that are new to like plugin development, we add functionality to WordPress. Actually, it's not just plugin development, theme development as well. Any kind of development for WordPress, like the first thing you need to understand is hooks. If you don't understand hooks, not the end of the world. I mean, like, you can just copy and paste what you see on here, and if it doesn't make sense to you, you know, maybe you don't know what's going on under the hood, not the end of the world. However, I do recommend anybody that wants to get serious about theme or plugin development, you know, learn how hooks work, and it's likely in the future we'll do a dev talk just on how hooks work. But that's outside of the scope of today's talk. I'm gonna assume either A, you know how hooks work already, or B, you just know how to copy and paste and you'll be good to go. So I'm just going to copy all of this right here, and then this is going to register our custom post type, and this is step A. So I'm just going to cut this, and whoops, I'm going to copy it is what I meant, and then I'm going to paste it down here, and we're going to go through this and talk about what this all does. Now, first and foremost, this is our, whoops, sorry. Yep. Everybody in the back good? You guys good? You know, I need to zoom in any closer? Okay. So this is the hook. Our add action is the hook. Okay. This is the event that our hook is bound to. That's what I meant to say. I know how to English, I promise. And then this is a reference to the name of the function that is going to execute when the thing that we're hooked to executes, right? So it's just like a keychain. Hey, whenever you do this one thing in WordPress, also do this other thing. So we have to reference the thing that we want, whatever, to, you know, the execution point, the thing we're actually hooking to, and the thing that we're hooking to that thing that we're hooking to. Does that make sense? It sounds kind of confusing, but I promise it's not that confusing. Yeah, you've got the keychain ring and the thing that you're sticking on the ring. Okay. Boom. That's the hook, right? So, so the thing that we're hooking to is the ring. In this case, our ring is a knit, and the thing we're hooking onto the ring is this function called create post type. And then if we go up here and we look at the name of the function, it says create post type. Now we're not going to leave it like that because it's way too generic, and so we're just going to change the name of this function to make it more specific to what we're doing. So I'm actually going to change the name entirely because I don't want it to be super long, and I'm just going to call it create WPO organizer CPT for custom post type. Okay, and then I'm just going to copy this string here, and I'm just going to paste it in the name of the function so that we are actually hooking to something. And notice how PHP Storm is awesome, and it just automatically minified this whole section for me that declares the plugin to save me some screen real estate. So all that stuff I added earlier, it's just smashed down into this little 3 dots, which is why it jumps from 2 to 11 on the line numbers. Okay, cool. So let's go through what this function does and kind of explain it a bit. Now, I'm not going to start at the top, and it'll be clear in a second why I'm not starting at the top. Okay, so the main function, the main thing that we need to execute during this hook is we need to call another function that's a core WordPress function called register post type, and we just give it a string that represents the slug or ID of our post type, and then we supply an array of args. That array of args is right here. Okay, so notice for convenience, PHP Storm, whenever I highlight a variable, if it sees it somewhere else on the page, it just kind of gives it like a background color or whatever. Hopefully people are not trying to text me back. Okay. great. We may have to take a break here soon. All right, so obviously I don't want my post type to be my_CPT because that's way too generic. So I'm gonna give it a different string, and we're just gonna call it WPO organizers. Yeah, it's that simple. Actually, we're gonna call it organizer singular. Yeah, just like a page and media, those are all singular too. It's kind of a better idea if you're making a custom post type to make the name of the post type the singular, whatever way that you say it. Yeah. So let's look at what these args are. The args, we just pass an array, and you don't get to choose what goes in this array. You get to choose the values, but you don't get to choose the keys. Okay, you gotta have these keys in here, and if you need to know what these keys are, there's documentation in the WordPress Codex that tells you all of the values you can pass in this list of args. So you don't even have to have all of these in there. You can have just some of them. So like some of them are optional, some of them are not optional, and yeah. So just go to the, I mean, I guess we can, for clarity, because people are, you know, it's just better to see things, I guess. You just type WP cus. The codex reference is going to be the first thing that comes up. So here it is, and it talks about all of this, and it shows you an example of the same exact thing that we just did. And then there should be a list of values. As a matter of fact, you'd probably be better off just looking up the name of the function itself, which is this register post type. And I'm guessing there's
hyperlink right above where you were.
Yep, you are correct. Yeah, and then in here, it should show you a list of all the stuff that you need to pass, the parameters. There you go. Yep. There's our args and our labels and all these things. And so it's all here. There's no shame in referring to the WordPress Codex when you're doing this stuff. Ever, no matter how long you've been doing this. I still, to this day, frequent the WordPress Codex when I'm writing code. So, yeah. Now, luckily in this situation, I've already got a template file, which makes things a little bit more convenient, so we don't have to look at it. But I just wanted to show you guys that. Okay, cool. So, you got these labels and a description and some other stuff here. Probably the most important stuff is, we'll kind of go over what some of these are. We went over what some of these are in the last meetup because that plugin that we're using, the Custom Post Type UI plugin, it gave you fields that represent all of these values, right? So literally like every value that you're seeing in this args array, there was a field for in the Custom Post Type UI. So first of all, I'm gonna change this has archive to something else besides my CPT. I'm probably just going to call it organizers. What this does is it defines what the slug is for the archive page. So this right here basically tells WordPress on the page where you list all of these posts what is going to be the URL. Well, you know, what's the thing in the URL essentially. And so I just want it to be /organizers. So that's the name of the archive, and so that's what I'm putting there. Supports, this is an array that defines all of the things that we are going to have our custom post types support. So obviously we want our custom post type to be able to have a title. We obviously want to be able to add body content, so that's what the editor's for. Thumbnail, so that we can have a featured image. You know, that's basically just like the organizer's picture so we know what they look like. An excerpt, this is the shorter version of the editor. Comments, we do not want comments, so we can take comments out. We don't want people commenting on our organizers because they'll likely write bad things about me. And then custom fields we want, because obviously that's one of the things we're talking about today, is how to add custom fields to this post type after we do this. Okay, cool. And then obviously the other things are menu position. That's just like how far down in the admin menu that it is. It uses a number between 1 and whatever. I think it goes up to like 100 something or 200 something. I don't know. But obviously, well, I guess it's not that obvious. But just so you know, the lower the number, the higher up it shows up on the admin menu. And then the higher the number, the lower it's kind of backwards or whatever. Whether or not you want it to be public, yes, we want everybody to be able to see these. The menu icon, this is literally just what the icon is in the admin menu next to the name of the custom post type. So last time we set this to the icon that looks like a bunch of people. We're going to do the same thing. I don't remember what the like slug is for that dash icon, so we're just going to look it up real quick. So I'm just going to look up WordPress dash icons, and then we're going to find our page that shows us what they all are, and then we're going to find that one that has like a little icon of like 3 people. I think three little person figurines. I think it's down here towards the bottom somewhere.
Yeah, it was right
I think it's called group.
Is it? It probably is.
From the bottom, right. Well, up 2.
Yep, the bowling pins. There they are. Yep, groups with an S. So it does. You do have to get it like verbatim, exactly like that. So now we can go in here and we can put that in here. I think, yeah. Cool. So that's that, and then we can give it a description. This is obviously left over from an old custom post type that I made this template from. And we're just going to call it manage all WP Omaha organizers. There you go. Now, there was another array above this. That is this guy here, right? And this part is a little boring and kind of annoying, but super necessary. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to tell WordPress in all the different places that it actually like refers to the literal naming of what this custom post type is referring to, what those strings are supposed to be. So here, obviously, we're not talking about presentations. We're talking about organizers. And I'm going to do a lot of copy and pasting because my typing seems to be sketchy today. So we're just going to call it organizer. The singular is going to be organizer. Add new is going to be organizer. Add new item. Whoops. Nope, kidding. This needs to be add new and the slug, which is WPO-organizer.
Is it a dash or is it underscore?
I think I did a dash. You're making me second guess myself. It is an underscore. You are correct. And it does matter. Add new or concatenizing organizer, edit organizer, new. When we create a new one, it should say new organizer. This is going to be plural, so we need to say all organizers. View organizer, search. This needs to be plural, organizers. Not found, no organizer found. And then this needs to be plural, no organizers found in the trash. Menu name, this is what it says in the menu. We're going to do plural, organizers. Okay, so like I said, a little annoying, like it can't figure all that out on its own, but that's just because it is a program. So there you go. That's it. I'm just going to upload this, and it just did it. And then now we're going to go back into our admin area. And obviously, I know what you're thinking right now. Gee, Rob, that is not as easy as using the plugin. You are 100% right. It is not quite as easy as the plugin. However, how do I word this? Having one or like maybe one or two plugins that add all the customizations that you need to a website, as opposed to adding 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different plugins to give you all the customization you want, is better. You don't have to worry about whether those plugins are being updated or not, and so it's just cleaner to do it this way, in my opinion. Yeah, cool. So now we see organizers up here. Yay, we did it. Okay, so side note, and I'll demo this later, but before we get into it, know that before you can start seeing your organizers show up, like let's say we go in here and we add a new one and we start adding new organizers, before the URL structuring can work for those, after you add and activate the plugin and the code and register the post type and all that stuff, you do actually have to go through and reset your permalinks before they work all the way. Like before you can actually navigate to them from the front end is what I'm trying to say. Because when you set permalinks, it looks for all your custom post types and like figures all that URL structure out for you. So we can do it now. We can wait till later when we're trying to figure out why the new ones that we're adding aren't discoverable with the URL. But essentially what you need to do is go into settings and permalinks and literally just obviously make sure your setting for the permalinks is accurate, which in this case it is, and you just have to click Save Changes. It's that simple, and it rewrites your permalinks. And so the plugin, the custom post type UI, essentially just does that for you, so you don't have to do that. Because we're not gonna make our plugin that fancy, so I don't really care to like add that functionality into our plugin. It's actually a lot easier if you just go in here and go to permalinks and click Save Changes. Problem solved. So just know that, just from my experience, I had to figure that out the hard way. So hopefully you guys don't.
So what if your permalinks are set to plain?
It doesn't really matter what you have them set to.
As long as you go in.
As long as you go in and click Save Changes, okay. Yeah, because it needs to be aware of all of the custom post types, okay, of all the post types in general for the site, so that it can properly build a permalink structure for everything. So yeah, it doesn't matter what you have it set to. All right, cool. So now we have a custom post type, and we can go in there and start adding them, and it's done. And we don't need custom post type UI plugin. Done deal. However, as of right now, we can't categorize our organizers. We have no what are called taxonomies. I'm going to add a taxonomy just so you know how it's done. And also because the code is already in this thing that's on my GitHub that you're probably going to go find later. And yeah. Oh, the messages. Post updated message. I left this in here because this is just a nice thing to have. It's essentially just a filter. I'd recommend you just use it. I mean, it's in there. It's easy enough to do. It's a lot of the same type of stuff that we just did in here. It's just more places that it needs to customize the terminology while you're doing stuff in WordPress. So a filter is just another hook. We're gonna prefix this with WPO organizer CPT messages. Sounds good to me. We're gonna copy that, put that up here in the name of the function, and then I'm just gonna go through and change all this stuff to be relevant to organizers. And because I'm lazy, I'm gonna go up here to this stuff and just take the word organizer and copy it, and then go in here and just make sure everything makes sense. Organizer updated, view organizer, custom field, yeah, okay, presentation, nope, organizer updated, organizer restored, anywhere where it says presentation, we're just gonna plop that in there and preview. Yeah. So a little annoying, you got to do this.
One more, up to the left.
Yep, thank you. And if I missed one, I don't really care at this point.
I'd rather
Okay.
copy and paste than have to cut and paste.
Now, I tried to cheat one time, and I tried to like make some variables and have it like add all those with variables, you know, and just make the string a variable up top. So I only had to change it in one place, and then I would just do it everywhere else. It did not like that. That did not work. Why didn't it work? So I just said, never mind on that idea. I'll go back to doing it the other way. So yeah, there you go. That's that. Now let's go back to this other file and let's do some more. So now let's add our taxonomy. Just grab this whole block. This is our taxonomy block. And this is what allows you to add taxonomies. You can see why I made a template for myself so that I don't have to go look up these actions and filters every time. So we're gonna do the same thing we just did. Add my CPT category. Instead of that, we're just gonna call it add WPO organizer. And instead of calling it category, I mean, I could just call it category, but I'm going to call it something else. I'm going to call it, let's call it role, because there's different like roles that certain organizers have. Like we have a social media person and a lead organizer. Sometimes we just have generic co-organizers. Sometimes we've got people that are in charge of sponsors. If the group grows and we continue to get a lot more sponsorship, eventually we'll probably need somebody that does like bookkeeping. And so we'll need somebody for that. So we'll just make role, right? So that we know, you know, what role people are, and then we can filter by role and such, which is a little overkill, but that's what we'll do. Just because we need an example for this. Now, obviously, you guys are probably aware that in most situations, if you're just making some generic custom post type, the term category or just having it called category is probably going to be sufficient. However, I don't know, if we were doing something like cars, a custom post type for cars, you might want to have like a class of car, right? So it might be like SUVs or, you know, sedans or whatever, right? And so you might not want to call it category. You can call it whatever you want, is the point. So presentation, it's the same thing. We're going to go through here and change this all to, say, this. Organizer categories, organizer category. I mean, I'm just looking at the end to see if there's an S on there is all I'm doing right now. Blah, blah, blah. And again, this is just terminology stuff. So you could probably do a find and replace for all this. Sometimes when I do that, it makes me nervous. And when it's this few amount of lines of code to change, I prefer to just go through and click, click, replace, click, click, replace.
So are you going to replace the category here to role, or are you going to leave this alone?
Oh, yes. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay. Yes. So here,
I guess that would be.
Yep.
That would be plural. Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right. And I'm just going to take the term role without the S, and we're just going to go like this. Okay, cool. Okay. Now, let's talk about hierarchical. Does anybody know what this means, hierarchical? I mean, obviously people know like what the word is, but do you know what it means in the context of WordPress? So hierarchical, basically the difference here is if you think about what's in posts, the generic post in WordPress has two taxonomies. The category taxonomy and the tags taxonomy. The category one is hierarchical, which means you get the checkboxes and you can create subcategories and such. The tags one is a non-hierarchical one where it's essentially just adding words, terms essentially, two, well, technically these are all terms, but yeah, it just doesn't do it in a hierarchical fashion. So there's no sub anything, if that makes any sense. And so it makes a big difference on the admin side of things because it totally changes the UI of how you go in there and add them, right? When it's a non-hierarchical one, you don't get the thing where you click the checkboxes and you can add a new one right on the spot and then click the checkbox and create sub ones and stuff like that. You get the other thing where it's just an input box and then it creates the little bubbles underneath with the X's next to them. Does that, you guys know what I'm talking about? Okay, so it is important to make sure that it is the right, I guess, thing, the right style of taxonomy. Cool. So that's it. Register taxonomy. We do got to go in here and change this. We're just going to call it WPO organizer role. Again, this is just an ID. And we do have to make sure we're referring to the correct ID of our custom post type. So obviously this would not work unless we changed it to what we actually called our custom post type or registered it as, which is this WPO underscore organizer. So we just go put that down here. And now we're done. So now if we upload that, zoom out again, we're gonna go back to demo, refresh. We're gonna go into our organizer page or our organizer area. You can see here now it says organizer roles. So that's our regular page where we can go and manage all the different roles that are available to us now, which there are none. Although we don't have to do it from here, we can do it right inside the organizer post. So now we can go in and add a new organizer. We'll just add myself because I'm the most important of all of them. And we're just going to make the title my name. And this would be my bio, which I'm not going to write right now. And then here it is right here, organizer roles. And I can just add a new one straight from here and say I'm the lead organizer. And notice how it allows me to do this parent stuff. It's because it's hierarchical. And then I can just add it within here. And then there it is. I'm lead organizer now. And then I would add my whatever headshot here for the featured image. And then I can publish. And boom. Now we have a post. And notice how it shows our permalink structure up here. And it says WPO organizer / Rob Ruiz. It knows that because we defined that in the code. 7:30 already. Holy cow, it took us a whole hour to get through that. Well, 40 minutes or so. Cool. So that's kind of like bare bones, you know, like an example of a taxonomy, an example of actually registering the custom post type. And now we can go in there and do that at will. I won't go into showing examples of other ones that I've done quite yet. I think we'll just save that for the end because it's a little fluff. I do want to kind of keep everybody's head like ingrained in actually writing code temporarily. Any questions over what we've done so far? All straightforward. You guys all got it. Obviously this video is on YouTube, so if you forgot and you're not taking notes, thank you, Google. Are there any questions? Is there anybody even on the live stream? I didn't think so. Okay, no, cool. We're so popular here at the Dev Meetup.
Well, I appreciate the fact you had it on last week since I was out of town. So
did you actually watch it?
I did.
Live?
I did.
Wow.
I didn't watch it live. I did watch it later.
Oh, okay, so. Cool. It only got 20 views. I was looking at it today because I remembered I was going to have to do this today. And then I went in there and looked. I was like, oh, it's still got the old name. And so I had to go in there and edit it. Anyway. Okay. Cool. So let's look at some of the other stuff that's in this template because I called it deluxe for a reason. And it's because while I was learning how to write my own custom post types, I wanted to I don't know, I just found myself wanting to do a bunch of other crazy stuff to my custom post type. And so when I wrote this template, I said, well, let me just go through all the custom post types I've ever written and just find all of the different things that I did to those that were like out of the norm and just put them all in here and comment them out so that if for whatever reason I did need a future custom post type that I'm writing to do any of this stuff, I don't have to go find again how to do it. I can just copy and paste it from within this template. And so notice how it says even right here, for simple CPTs, just remove or comment everything below here. So that's basically just telling you, hey, everything below here is just a bunch of other extra goodness. And you probably don't need it, but maybe you do. I don't know. This is just, we're just adding another taxonomy here. And this is just a tag taxonomy. That's all it is. So it's a non-hierarchical, taxonomy. Notice how it says hierarchical, false. That's the big thing. So this is just, if you want to add tags and categories to your custom post type, take this one, copy and paste it in, change it like we just did, you're good to go. All right, cool. Let's look at some other good stuff that's in here. Admin menu customizations for listing your custom post type in the admin area. Create columns, tags, and categories in the backend. You probably have no idea what this means, and you would be right for not having any idea because it's a little confusing. So, essentially what this does is it allows you to, when you're in the admin area and you're looking at the list of all of your posts of this type, you can actually go in here and add different columns into this table. So if you add a custom field, which we're going to do here in a second, we can have the value of that custom field populate into this table so that we can see those values, including the categories and the taxonomy and stuff too. If we wanted to filter this whole, let's say there's a whole bunch of them in here, and we wanted to filter by a taxonomy of some kind, we can say, show me all of just the ones that are whatever role or whatever, right? And so we can create however many columns we want here. For a cool example of this, let me just shoot through the code real quick so you guys see what's going on in here. It's pretty self-explanatory. All we're really doing is we're adding an action here that says, hey, when you're going through and you're essentially writing the table for this custom post type, I want you to trigger this function. And then there's also a filter, which is what I believe this other one is. Manage issues columns, that's this one. There's the filter. So this one is the filter, and then this one is the action that I think one of them builds the columns, the other determines what gets populated into the columns. Yes. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of like a multi-step process. We have to first tell it to create the actual columns, and then in the filter, we actually have to tell it what is going to go into that column, if that makes any sense. So that's what's happening. Whoa, that's what's happening here. And so, yeah, I hope that makes sense. Yeah. I'll show you an example here in a minute. It'll make a lot more sense once I show you the example. So I did this in a couple of different places. The High School Impressions website that I always show off in a lot of my talks because it's got more custom functionality than any other site that I've ever worked on, has a really good example of this. So there's a custom post type in here called designs, and I wanted to be able to have some custom columns because there's so many designs, like literally thousands of them, that we needed some columns in there so that we could make it easier to figure out what's going on in each design. So in this one, you can see these columns that I've added. It's, pretty self-explanatory here. Here's my category. So these are my taxonomies. I created 2 taxonomies with extremely original names of category and tags. Those did not come by default. I had to add those manually. It seems like they might come by default because it's generic naming. I wanted the generic names in this case because it made sense for tagging and categorizing designs, which is kind of going back to what I said earlier, which many times, you're probably just going to want to call it category or tag or whatever. And then we have a image preview of the actual design to the two images, right? So that wouldn't be there unless I had actually added that in the custom post type. Another example is in the art proofs, which is another custom post type that I made in here. I believe I added custom columns in here. Yeah, and so we have the preview column, and then these are all custom fields. The customer's email, the sales rep, the artist. Some of these come by default, like the ID, you don't have to add, right? It just comes with the ID. It'll show the ID by default. It'll show the title by default, I think. And obviously we can see what comes default because we can just go back to our, come on Chrome, keep up. Yeah, so title, actually the ID doesn't show by default. That's interesting. No, I think I've got it turned off up here in the screen options. Never mind, I'm totally incorrect. I don't know why the ID, I guess I made the ID show up. So the title will show up by default, the date will show up by default, the analytics, this is being added by the analytics plugin that I have installed on here, so that's what that is. And actually the other three, this is Yoast. Yoast is going through and adding this for all custom post types on the site. Okay, cool. So any questions on that? Okay. So that's just another little gem in here. If you want to add custom columns in the listing in the admin area, that's what that's for. What's this stuff? In queuing scripts. Does anybody here not know what in queuing scripts is? This is basically just like us telling WordPress, hey, when you load this post type, I want you to also enqueue or inject or add to the header the embed code for either a JavaScript file or a CSS file. So this is so that we can add custom CSS or custom JavaScript to our custom post type so that we can make it look different or whatever, right? And we don't have to do that in the theme, we could do it right in the plugin itself, if that makes any sense. So that is what this is for, and actually, just so you guys know, I do this for pretty much, this is almost like part of my process. Anytime I create a custom post type, I've got like several different things that are like obvious that I have to add, like that first block where register a custom post type. I usually always add at least one taxonomy, even if I'm not sure I'm going to need one at all, right? I'll just add one anyway. And then the enqueue scripts for that, I almost always need that because I'm going to want to go in and style what those look like on the single and on the archive, and so I just do it in here, and so it's like I almost need it so on all of them. So I this is pretty much part of my process, is the enqueue script. And it's important that you note that just because it's in our plugin file doesn't mean that these scripts are only going to get enqueued for this post type. It's going to get enqueued all over, like on every page of the site, unless we put a conditional in here, which I did not do. If not an array hooker, I think this is for the admin. So this is if I want to add, this one in particular is if I want to enqueue scripts for the admin of the custom post type. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're editing the custom post type. That's what this is for. But it's almost the same exact code if you want it on the front end. You just, instead of admin enqueue scripts, it's just WP enqueue scripts, I think. So that's that. And like I said, when you want to do it for just that custom post type, you do need to add a conditional in here before you do WP enqueue script. You do need to tell it if you have to call global post. So it would look something like this. If post type is equal to, and then our post type, which is in this case WPO organizer. Gosh, I don't know why I can't spell this word to save my life. Organizer if the post type is equal to organizer, and before we do this, at the top we do have to say global post, wait, with a $sign. We do have to do that. So we do have to like say, hey, give me the global post object for this thing that we're on, if it's a post at all, or if it's, yeah, if it's a post. And then it'll say, and then we just say, if the post type of this object is equal to WP organizer, then do this in a Q script. And that's how you make sure that the scripts or styles are only being injected into the page when it's on that post type. Any questions there? We can almost do a whole talk on enqueuing scripts and stuff, but we're not going to. So that's that. What do we got here? Enqueue scripts, okay. Send out emails when a custom post type is published. That's how you do it. Any question on that? So I needed a way so that when we publish an art proof, it automatically sent an email to the value that was in a custom field in that custom post type that said, hey, send an email to this email address when you publish it automatically, so that the admin doesn't need to, after they publish it, go manually go send the email. Pretty cool, right? Yeah. All right. Here's the regular enqueue scripts. I think that's what this is. No, that's still admin. Never mind. Just kidding. Register custom shortcode. Everybody know what a shortcode is? That's literally all this is. We're just adding a shortcode. This, create a custom meta box. And then this is what gets us to the custom fields, I believe. That's the meta box, but I don't see where we add the actual field. We're just adding a meta box, which kind of weak. Kind of wish the custom field was in here. It's okay. We can throw it in here if we want. We'll have to go look up the code on that. I think the reason it's not in here is because the code that they give you in the codex at the very top of the page is like all you need. Just copy, paste it, change it like we just did here. It's just as easy as grabbing it from here almost. And I'll show you that in a second. So this is just so that you guys understand what it means by meta box? You will in a second. So in the example of this guy here, our custom meta box is this whole thing. Like this thing with well, not that one. This one with an arrow on it where we can like minimize it and make it bigger and stuff. That is a meta box. So we put our custom fields inside meta boxes, so it essentially allows us to group our custom fields that we add to the custom post type. That's a meta box. And so we use that code that we just saw to add those custom meta boxes and then add our custom fields within that meta box. Let's go look up WP custom fields. Now, I'm not going to lie, on the left site that we just looked at, I did a combination of the two. I added some custom fields from scratch with code, and then I also used advanced custom fields. Sue me.
I like advanced custom fields.
I do too. All right, so there's displaying custom fields, and then it should have a part where it talks about saving, post meta. Where's the hook? Grr. This is not exactly what I wanted. Because there's two parts to the custom fields. You have to have a block of code that adds the field to the page, and then you have to have another block of code that actually allows you to save the data that's in the custom field to the database when the user clicks update or whatever, or publish, I guess, for that matter. I don't like that page. Come on. Nope. Nope. Maybe this is what we want. I just hate it how sometimes like these top results, they'll tell you, here's how you do this. And then you read down and it's like, install this plugin first. You're like, it's not what I was looking for, buddy. Which I believe is exactly what this one does. Curses! Please don't make me go log into somewhere else where I've already done this before. Creating custom fields and metaboxes. Sorry, I thought that that code was like actually in the deluxe thing, but it wasn't. There's how we register. Display the custom post. Blah, blah, blah. Metabox. Okay, cool. Here's where we add the metabox. Save field in the database. Boom. That's what we want. That is what we want right there. Okay, cool. So here's the two blocks I was talking about. Here's the first one that we need. And then the second one is the saving of the data. So one data to, well, and the metabox. So I guess you technically need three. I've seen a second way of doing this that's actually kind of clean, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember. I can't remember all the code I write, people. I'm sorry. And we do need that metabox one, so we're gonna add this guy too. And this one does it like an object. Does the other one not use object-oriented? Because that'd be great if we could just stick to that way of doing things. Where's the metabox? Yes. Beautiful. That's how we want to proceed. We're just going to use all this. I want to put this one above the other ones. It's already 746. Actually, we're not going to go through all this and change it. But those are the three functions that you need. We're not going to demo this because I don't want to run out of time, and it's going to take me some time to like go through and change all this. So essentially, that's what you need. We create our metabox. We create the fields one at a time here. So notice how it says all fields will go here. They're only putting one field in there. We could obviously add more than that. And then here's where we save the data. So essentially what's happening is, again, a hook, no surprise, and these are all using hooks. This is the add metaboxes hook. It should refer to the post type in here somewhere. It doesn't. I think that's what screen is. Yeah. That's what screen is. You put your custom post type ID in here. So that only adds it on that custom post type. And then this is where the saving happens. And notice how this is hooked to probably update post hook. What's going on here? Yeah, save post. So that's what's happening, is it says, okay, whenever we're saving any post at all, go through and do this. And then we say, so in this case, what they're doing is they're adding a custom field to the page custom post type. We would essentially change page to our WPO organizer one or whatever, right? So basically we're just telling it, hey, only run this code when we're messing with that custom post type. If that makes any sense. Cool. That's custom fields. Any questions at all? So why nobody comes to the dev stuff? It's a little more boring than the admin stuff. What's up?
What's your stance on the advanced custom fields?
My stance is that it does make your life easier. It does work. So here's why it's important to know how to do it without the custom fields. What if you're trying to make a plugin that you actually want to distribute? Well, but you would have to buy a special license of advanced custom fields if you wanted to use advanced custom fields with your plugin, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you do.
Purchase it, you have access to it, right?
Not as a developer.
What I'm saying is that you would have to give some kind of documentation along with your plugin that says, hey, this plugin requires advanced custom fields.
Right.
So in order to use this plugin and all the features that come with it, you have to also install this other plugin. That's hella sloppy, right? It's a lot nicer if you can just say, boom, install and activate this one plugin, and all your custom fields are just in there and no need for advanced custom fields, if that makes any sense, right? So that's why it's important to know how to do it without advanced custom fields. Now, if you're working on a site that is your site and you manage it, and the plugin you're writing and the thing the only reason you're making it into a plugin is just so that you can like have clean code and you can isolate this functionality into something that you can activate and deactivate, and you have somewhere to just put all of the code that adds all the custom stuff to your website, and you're not going to distribute that, then sure, by all means, it's actually better to just go download and install advanced custom fields and then use their functionality because it's a very programmer-friendly plugin. Yeah, that's a better way to go. But if you're writing something that you want to possibly one day distribute to others, it doesn't make sense to do that. It makes more sense to just write your custom field functionality straight into the plugin that you're writing so that you don't require other plugins in order for your plugin to function. Good question, though. Fantastic question. So I'm not anti-advanced custom fields, but if I'm writing a plugin that I'm going to distribute to others, whether it's selling it or giving out for free or whatever, then I don't like advanced custom fields.
Would you say the same thing about the that custom post type
UI
plugin we talked about last week?
I mean,
it's for your own site.
Yeah, if it's for your own site and you're just trying to add a custom post type, you don't feel like doing code and whatever, go for it, by all means. But what's going to happen when you want to add custom functionality to that custom post type that plugin doesn't provide you? Now you're still going to have to end up going and creating a plugin. Now your plugin won't need all of these functions up here that actually register the post type. So it'll be a smaller amount of code in your plugin, but you're still going to have to make your own custom plugin. And in all honesty, this isn't very hard to do, especially if you use find and replace. So let me I guess I'll just say this. Until I did that talk last week, I had never used a plugin to create a custom post type. I had always done it with code because it's like almost just as easy. Like I can create a custom post type for any site I'm working on in minutes with code. I'm just used to working in code. So the only reason I wanted to do the talk last week was I wanted to empower people that are afraid of code to be able to utilize that same thing, to be able to utilize custom post types, be able to create their own without having to hire a developer and without having to learn PHP. So that's the only reason why we did that talk last week, because that's cool, right? So yeah.
Yeah, this library is available.
This code?
Yeah.
It's on my GitHub under the 2016. Like I said, this was part of my talk for WordCamp 2016 on creating good admin experience, and so yeah, my slides are there, and then you can go and, are you looking at the red thing up top? Yeah, screw them.
I think it's that Bizzle right there on the bottom.
I haven't done it yet. Please don't hack me. I don't know. I've been changing my password. I don't know why it's even telling me that, but anyway. That's the first time I saw it today when I logged in today. Before you guys all showed up, I saw it. But yeah, so if you just go to Rob Ruiz, so here's my URL for GitHub, Rob Ruiz, and I've got some other stuff in here. Yeah, you just search for WordCamp 2016, and then if you're interested in hearing that talk I did on admin experience, obviously that's up on the WordCamp Omaha YouTube channel, and we have a whole playlist of 2016 talks, and mine's in there. But it's not quite the good quality as what we had last year. For the 2017 quality of videos was much better because we had to actually use like a webcam, or not a webcam, whatever, a little handy cam on a tripod pointed at the screen, the projection screen or whatever, right? It wasn't even like a screen share or screen grab or whatever, right? And the sound is kind of like, whatever. Anyway. Luckily, we've upgraded for WordCamp, so Mammal Hall provides us automatic screen casting and records all of our screens and records with the video for us and everything. So the quality of last year's videos are much better than the previous year. So, but I still do encourage you guys to watch that talk because I talk about other cool stuff too, as far as like admin experience and why to do it and why custom post types are important. Because if you're building sites for clients and you don't want your client, like you want your client to update their content frequently. So that's like the whole gist of the whole talk is like, my argument is that admin experience is actually more important than user experience, because if you make it prohibitive for your, whoever you hand the site over to add content to the site, that site's not going to get much traffic anyway because it's not getting content rapidly added to it, which is bad for search engine optimization. And so you want to hand over a site that is very user-friendly for the admins to go in and mess with the content and stuff. Which I show off the demo. I demo this other website that I made, which was and I showed this off last week too, Tully's Kennels, where they go and they list all the puppies that are available at the kennel. And they still maintain this. Like as you can see, some of these were just added yesterday. And this is a custom post type I made for them, and it's got 5 different taxonomies built into it. And then I have this page template that lists them all. Oh, we didn't do that. We didn't talk about, well, we still have time. This is supposed to go till 8:30. We should talk about it. So has anybody here never written a page template before? Yeah, sweet. Let's talk about how to do that. Let's do it. Awesome. Man, I was like, sorry, I'm really tired today. So like, I'm really like ready to just like call it a night, but I don't want to shortchange you guys. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to create a custom post type if you don't obviously like have a way to list all of those nicely on the front end of the website, obviously. And then depending on the custom fields and stuff, you're going to want to display the values of those custom fields on the single page for each post type so that we can see the value that's entered by the admin in there, right? So that when we go to my page, we can see the role or whatever that I have. Otherwise, the custom field is mostly pointless. It's really, really easy to do custom page templates, by the way. You guys are going to love how simple this is. This is really, really, really simple. Now, there is a way to do it right in the plugin, but I am not going to do it that way because I'm lazy. The only reason I would do it that way is if I want to make sure that if it's a plugin that I want to distribute, same thing we were talking about earlier, right? Same reason, advanced custom field, same thing. But if this is a site, if this is just something that I'm building for a site that I'm working on and I'm never going to distribute to anybody, the best way to do this is just to do it within the child theme. And that's how we're going to do it today. So here you can see my child theme, and here you can see this is actually a page template that I've already written. but there's literally only one in here that I've written. So let's go over how we write the page templates for custom post types. So the first thing you're going to want to know is that there's two different page templates that are necessary for post types. The first one we're going to talk about is the archive page. So what we're going to call this is we're going to call it archive dash, and then what you want in here is the ID of the custom post type, and it has to be exactly like the ID that we registered it with. So what this needs to be is archive dash WPO underscore organizer .php. Boom. There's that. Okay, cool. Now we're just going to go ahead and add the other one while we're at it. And this is just a convention, and it's not something that's optional. Like, you have to have it. It has to have this file name, this file convention. Okay, the naming convention. So now for the single page, so that when somebody actually goes to the single post itself. So in the case of the one I already made, Rob Ruiz, right? When they go to me, we need single dash, same thing, WPO underscore organizer.
Single or single? You've got an extra D in there.
Usually just single, in case you want to go back later and figure out why the heck your code's not working. Yes, so single. Boom. There you go. So now it's still not doing anything because this is just locally on my computer. Let's just, I want to explain something else too, and so you'll see where I'm going with this here in a second. Here is my post that I already made, and this is me, and then I'm only clicking on this so I can get the URL, and I don't like to do the preview thing. I know a lot of people use the preview. I like to just control on a PC or command on a Mac, click on the permalink and have it open up in a new tab. I prefer to do it that way. Why is this not working? That's not good. Do we need to permalink refresh again? Probably. That's no fun. Oh, we already, maybe you have to create an actual post in the post type first.
You pasted code in that you said you were not going to fix.
Ooh. That might have something different.
That might be it.
Yeah. That is, you know what, either way, even if that's not our problem, we should probably go in here and just comment all this out. We'll add the custom field in here if we have time, but for now we're going to assume that we don't have time. It's just a lot to go through, and I don't want to bore you guys to death mostly is my thing. What's the shortcode? There we go. I don't think it's going to care about the open close PHP stuff there. I think we're good.
I wasn't sure, but I just remember you doing that.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out, because I'm not on my A game today. I apologize. So, and let's just go ahead and do this to make sure that's not the problem too. And now let's refresh this and see what we get. Still nothing.
You've got a character up there.
Is my page template already in there? I didn't think I uploaded that already. Sorry, looking for the page template?
Well, it's not the white screen of death.
Let's just go.
It's the arrow screen.
It's the arrow screen of death.
Here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to cut all this out, and instead of deleting it all the way, I'm going to put it in this guy over here. And then I'll go back and grab it later if I want. And then that way we can rule out that problem. Man, I still get the feeling it's looking for a page template. I don't remember uploading the page template already. Why would it be looking for it? It should just be defaulting. Okay, let me tell you how things are supposed to work, and then I'll get this working in a second. So, how it works. WordPress, when loading up a custom post type, what it does is it goes through a hierarchical checklist of sorts. And it says, okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look to see if there is a single dash and the ID of this post type. If there is, I'm going to use that as my page template. If there's not, what I'm going to default to is the next step up in the hierarchy. In this case, what it would be is single.php. Maybe that's our problem. Maybe it's looking at a single that's just blank in here, which I'd be surprised to find out. No, there's no. I don't see a single in here.
So there's no single at all.
No.
So then it's got to go to the next one.
If there's no single, then it goes to, well, first of all, while it's checking these, it goes and checks in the child theme first and then in the parent theme. Okay, so it does that before it goes to the next part of the hierarchy.
So does the parent have something?
I'm sorry, what?
Does the parent have something in it then?
I'd be very surprised if it does. My guess is probably not. Where tools?
So which one is
Deployment.
it pulling from? Is it pulling from the page HTML or the BPO?
There's no single.php in this one. Those files shouldn't be uploaded already. If they are, that explains what's going on here. But I don't remember clicking upload after I made those. I just want to browse remote host. Well, if we browse a remote host and we see them on here, that would solve this mystery real quick. Themes. So let's look at the child theme. See what's in here.
There it is. Yep.
How did it get there already?
It's
Just by
this is
creating it, it
Flywheel.
automatically uploaded
This is
it?
Flywheel.
I don't think it's Flywheel. I think it's
I think it
PHP
is.
Storm, actually.
No.
Anyway, so that's why it's not showing anything, is because I literally uploaded an empty page template, so there's nothing there. So it's just showing a blank screen. So that's why that's happening.
Because I've had the same thing happen with the white screen, and usually it's a permalink error.
Well, sometimes you can get white screen errors for a lot of different reasons. A lot of times, actually, what it is that people don't have WP debug on, and then there's a fatal error somewhere, and it's not showing that there's a fatal error because you've got debug turned off. So usually, if you get a white screen, the first thing you do is turn debug on, and then most of the times that'll show you the text of the fatal error. You fix the fatal error, and then you fix the whole problem entirely. But in this case, it's just that it's loading an empty page template that has nothing on it. We'll fix that here in a second. But I did want to show you that where it would default, what it would have defaulted to, actually what it will default to if we go in and delete these files, which I suppose I could just do, because we can just re-upload it.
So it'll go single PHP.
Yeah, I know we only need the single one, but I'm going to do them both. So now if we go back and refresh this page, what it's going to do is it's going to default to the single.php in, be really embarrassing if it didn't. Yeah, so now what it's loading is it's loading single.php in the parent theme. So it's loading this one right here. The reason I want to point out what it's doing, right? The reason I want to point that out is because, and this is how I do it. Now, I'm sure other more advanced developers maybe or something have other ways of doing it. But the way that I know to do it that's like the most bulletproof is just go into the parent theme, grab your single.php, okay? Literally copy all of what's in there. Go into your single WPO organizer, paste in everything. Now we upload this and we should see literally no change because now it'll load our page template with the same exact code that it was getting from single.php, right? But now we can go in and mess with this to our heart's desire and change it live. So just to demonstrate, I'll go in to this one and I'll say blah, 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 get header, okay, yada, 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 get the footer, get the template part. Here it's getting template parts. And if gallery, else do this other stuff. Okay, cool. It's getting some single news thing. We don't even have to do that if we don't want to. But here I'm just going to echo I don't know, something obnoxious so that we can see it. And then now, when we refresh the page, we should see, I am right.
Where would we see? There it is. Okay.
Actually, in this case, it's left, not right.
You're
Anyway, all right. So yeah. So basically, what that means is that it is now reading our new page template, and we can go and change all of that, right? So now, right here, it's showing my bio, and whatever the template part that it's using is showing like the date that it was published and the author and print this article and all this other crap. We could essentially just go in here and get rid of this. We'll just comment it out for now, this line of code. I know it's that one because obviously our post type is not gallery. And then now if we refresh, we should see nothing else on the page except for our "see, I am right." Right. Yeah. So now we just fill it in with all of the stuff from the post that we actually want. So now we can go in and use PHP and HTML to like make this page look however we want it to look. Obviously my headshot and the bio and then any custom fields and all that stuff. And we could essentially just spend a whole bunch of time, obviously a lot longer than 20 minutes, writing what we want this, exactly what we want this to look like, including our custom field data and all that stuff. And any other dynamic data that we want for that matter, because we're writing it all in PHP and HTML, so, and CSS as well. Which is why you need to enqueue scripts in the post type, because we're going to want a way to be able to write CSS just for this page, right? And so the same thing for the archive. I don't know if you know this, but just to get to the archive, it's just you take that off. And so this thing should be blank. I'm sorry, come again. You're not found. That's no bueno. I feel like should it be organizers? No. I think I was incorrect about something when we registered the post type. I think that where we defined the archive thing way up here, I think this has archive. Yeah, I think we need that. Let's try that. I'm almost certain that's what it is, but yes, I was right. Cool. So, we defined exactly what we wanted this to be in the has archive value, and so, regardless of how it wrote the permalink for the single one, this is what we have for the archive. And so now we can write this one as well. Now I think I expected this to be completely blank, and it's not. And I think the reason for that is that I had the naming convention incorrect. Oh no, we don't have it uploaded, I don't think. That's the problem. We never went in here. I believe that now, I think it should be blank now. Yes. I know, great. Yes. I know that looks terrible, but that's a good sign. And so we would just do the same exact thing that we already did for the other one. We would go up here to the parent theme and find their archive from in here, which they don't have one, which means it would default to index. Okay, well, we just take the index then. Boom, done deal. Whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. Yeah, boom, 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 done. Save. Whoops. Save. Upload. And now it'll look the same way it did before we did any of this jazz. because the index is what it was defaulting to before. Yep. So then we would just go in and change this to whatever we want. So in the case that we don't want to show the author name and the published date or whatever, right? If we wanted these to look very specific way, we would either write how we want every one of how we wanted every one of them to be in here, or what we could do is see how they're using this get template part, theme include news. How that's working is they have includes this one right here. So it's calling this, it's like injecting this PHP in where it says get template part. That's literally what that function does. And notice how they're just like, I mean, you can see where they're doing all the different stuff. Footer, and they're referring to other template parts, and so they've got it all chopped up and broken up in this specific theme. We don't even have to do that. We could just not use a template part at all. We don't have to use get template part. We could just as easy go in and say, okay, don't use get template part, but what we want to do is get into the loop here. So what we want to do is we want to say has post the post, or no, if has post the post or whatever. Then the post and well, I think you have to have while in there too. Essentially what we need is the loop in here, and it's not in here currently. Or there's another way to do it. We could just grab post, and there's like functions in that object or that class that we can use to like print out certain parts as well. So there's two different ways to do it. But if you go to the codex and you look for WP the loop, we can go in here and just grab this code. It's like the generic loop code, which is this right here. And then, yeah, we can paste that here where I tried to remember what it looks like and didn't. And then in here, we can do stuff like get, well, you don't even have to echo on some of these. You can say the title, I think, and it'll automatically echo it for you. God, I hope I'm right. And if I'm not going to try and figure out why I'm wrong either, just so you guys know. Yep, there we go. Cool. So if you wanted to actually write out echo or whatever, what you would do instead is you would use get the title and echo, and then if we wanted to get all fancy, we would say like, we could open close PHP here if we wanted to. But a faster and easier way to do that is just to say echo whatever, h2, so that it's like, you know, bigger, better. h2. It's a little sloppy, but there's a bunch of different ways to skin this cat. There you go. Now let's go to H1 tab. Yeah. I mean, it makes a big difference, right?
It does. Now you're such a
Yep. And obviously we would want to like put all that in a container and like do all the other normal HTML stuff that you do when you design a page, essentially. But now that we're in the loop, we can easily get data that's relative to that post, even the custom field data and stuff too. So now we can do stuff like get the content, get the post title, get whatever, right? And just like, and add all the different divs and create all our different styles and basically make every single one of these entries look exactly the way we want them to look. And if we include JavaScript too, we can do all sorts of other crazy stuff like make them collapsible if we wanted to, or whatever, right? You can use jQuery to your heart's extent, and we could spend hours upon hours upon hours making this list of these custom post types look exactly the way that we, and even behave exactly the way that we want them to, essentially. Cool. 8:20. Bam. So we did do everything I wanted to do. And you guys, now I know we didn't like get into the custom field thing or whatever. You guys don't want to sit here and watch me code that for another 15 minutes because I probably can do it that fast. But yeah. More importantly, any questions about anything related to custom post types, custom fields, even page templates, since we went over that? Page templates are super easy. Oh, by the way, if you create a page, any page in the admin area, you can use what we just talked about with the page template stuff. So we kind of cheated and like put a whole other topic into this whole talk today. Like if we go in and just create some page and we call it whatever, we could easily write a whole custom page template for that specific page just by doing this right here, which is exactly what I did for this. Oops, that's the wrong one for this guy. Oh, and by the way, obviously to like add it without doing a plugin, we could have just added all of those lines of code that we put into our plugin file. We could have put them right here in functions.php and it would have done the same thing. So that's how you do it without writing a whole plugin. But yeah, this thing right here, all I did was make a page called HTML class demo, and it goes off of the slug, not the title. However, as many of you probably know, when you create a page in WordPress, it just tries to automatically take the title and make a slug out of it, and it just replaces the spaces with dashes and stuff like that, right? So that's what I did. I made a page called HTML class demo. It created a slug for it automatically called HTML-class-demo, and then I just went in here and made a page dash the slug.php, and when we go to that page on the front end, it just does this essentially, and says Rob is the coolest. And so if we look in here and find that page, which is HTML class demo right here, and we click view, so it basically ignores the page.php and the single.php and the index.php, and it just does this. Yeah. Yeah, so if you ever just want to write a custom page from scratch in WordPress, all you literally have to do is go make the page and then not put anything in the content, and you can just write the whole thing in the PHP file.
Oh, cool. Now, how do the twig files fit into all these?
Sorry, twig files?
Yeah, in WordPress. The twig files versus the PHP files.
Twig's the HTML templating engine.
Okay.
So Twig is used for generating HTML in like a programmatic way.
I don't even know what the hell twig is. I have no idea what you guys are talking
It's
about.
like the SAS for HTML. It's like how it's like a like if you know how
Styling?
What's that?
You mean styling?
No, it's for like programmatically generating HTML, so it looks like PHP, but it's HTML. So instead of like writing out, the HTML body tag.
So it's like doing PHP without doing PHP?
Yeah.
You can like write loops in the HTML.
In
So
our,
you
With
have-
twig.
in our, well,
So
that's
you're
what,
not mixing
that's what,
HTML and PHP together.
that's what they call, it calls it. Well, you have
Well,
PHP and you have twig files. But what our particular system does, the posts pull from the PHP, but our pages pull from the twig files. So you can you can conceivably have different headers and different footers, which is kind of a scary thought if you didn't design it correctly or update it. So,
I guess I don't know why you'd want to do one or the other over the other though. Like if you've got PHP, why don't you just do it in PHP? If you don't know PHP, I guess. Is it a convenience thing? Like if you know Twig and HTML but not PHP, you can use that?
I don't know. I thought that was just how WordPress is set up, because I don't have a tool. I mean, I can go into the back end and create PHP, but any page that I create creates a Twig. So yeah, TWIG.
I'd be interested to hear a whole talk from somebody else, obviously, other than me, about these Twig files, because this is the first time I'm ever even hearing about them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to do it, if you want to do a talk on Twig files, please, I would be very happy to sit in on that.
I would love to share my back end with you and see what you think about what it is that you've got, because I just inherited this. So
yeah.
I don't know if it's part of being a multi-site, if that's part of the whole equation or not.
Sounds like it's probably just a WordPress feature that I just never knew about. But we have totally.
It's not a WordPress thing?
No, it's not a WordPress thing. It's
Okay.
all PHP. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
It's
it
like
has nothing to do with WordPress. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
It's like a HTML,
Did
PHP.
you say you can get the HTML out of the PHP files? I find it much easier to use.
You find Twig much easier to use?
Yeah.
Why?
You don't open and close PHP tags or anything else. You truly can just concentrate on the HTML, the variables over there.
Interesting.
So basically.
So how do you do stuff like get the title
From your PHP file, you just call out.
So you have, so every time you
pulls the rendered content back in as though you had written it in the PHP file.
You refer to these Twig files and it injects that stuff into the PHP file.
Echo it back out or whatever.
So it's exactly like that get template part thing, except instead of writing the template part in PHP, you're writing it in this Twig jazz.
So to have a template, I have to have a PHP, but you don't have to have anything in the PHP.
Gotcha.
Other than to name it something, and then you have the Twig file. So.
Fascinating. I would love to hear a whole talk about Twig, I'm not going to lie. And like you said, talking about showing off your site, we've totally had dev talks where it's literally just come in and show off